Okay, so this is a follow-up of my battery. It's been working fine for the last couple years. I just had to change out one of the pairs of batteries because two of the ones I put in here, I think they were the Sanyos, the red cells. Those ones decided to go full short and they went straight to 0 volts. And so I changed them out with some kind of sort of matching Sony's, and it's been working perfectly. We built some wooden boats with like 500 screws on a charge. Been working flawless, and I've been working with this silly makeshift balance lead charger thing so I can use my RC charger, but I want to use the original charger it came with. So I took this guy apart, got the batteries out like you see, and on eBay I picked up one of these. It's a balancing BMS board that will allow me to use the original charger, and it'll automatically shut off once it's fully charged. So I can use up to like a 26 volt battery, I think it is, or a charger on this. And it was like $4 on eBay. So actually, let me log in on eBay. It's right here. $4. What a deal. So for $4 you can get it. It'll handle 15 amps. That's more than what the little motor will pull. So I'm just heating up my soldering iron, and I pulled the leads off. And then I'm gonna start assembling the batteries inside the box again with the balance leads going to the BMS, so I can just hook it up to a 24 volt battery or power source and then charge it up. Here we go. I resoldered it together with new leads, a little bit thicker cable here for the solder onto the PCB, which I'm going to put over here somewhere, and then make sure I use all good gauge wire. That's a little thin. I may double it up, like I doubled up this one. I'm just a little short on fat cable, so I may double up that one, and then I'll put everything back in here, and then I'll put the PCB board on. There we go. Now I have the PCB sitting on top. I have the batteries in there, all wired in. Now what I need to do is position this so the B minus is on the negative most, and then I'm going to solder that on, and then each of these leads gets soldered on the correct pad. And the seller on eBay was nice enough to give us a little diagram. So that little diagram there is what we're going to follow to put this on. So I'm going to get the first one on, and then I'll continue. There we go. I also pre-tinned all the battery points. So here's battery negative according to that diagram. So that's the negative most, and here's the next positive. So this sense lead would go on to B1 right there, wink, like that. And then I'll do that real quick and I'll resume. Okay, so now I got that one on. Now the B2, because negative, positive, this lead will go to B2, like so. There we go. That one's done. So now I'm going to solder this one on to B3. There we go. Done. So now B4 will be this one right here. There we go. Now that one's soldered on, and now the B plus would be this yellow wire, which is the positive most on the cell. There we go. Now that guy's on. Now the last thing to do is to get the top of this right here, and I have the negative wire here and the positive wire here. I put them up where it says P positive and P negative. So negative would go here and the positive would go here, and that would be your charge and discharge port. Okay, so now that's done, and then what I also did was, after I soldered, that's still warm. After I soldered that, I slipped this cover in underneath. And before I can put this guy on, I have to put the spring dealy buffer locker guy on there. But before I do that, I want to put something on top of this to protect the PCB. So the spring coming down on top of this thing here doesn't damage anything. So and then the shield that I'm going to use is actually an old Starbucks card with a cardboard cover. I'm going to cut it to fit and then stick it right here so the spring doesn't have any chance of contacting the PCB, and this should be enough insulation that it shouldn't damage it. But it's the wrong way to do it, but that's the only way I can do it right now. So so I just got to cut that to fit. I got some big scissors and I'm going to cut it up. There we go. That's what it looks like cut. The spring will push right there. The wires are hooked up. So let me attach this real quick, and something like this. Yeah, maybe I need a hammer. Just one sec. There, with a little bit of persuasion and a little bit of Gorilla Tape. It's as good as new. It kind of works. Now with my drill guy on here. I was expecting a little bit more than that. Let's take this apart and troubleshoot. Okay, so I opened up the battery. There's my voltmeter thingy, my jigger guy. Negative lead is right here on the negative. Positive is right about here. Let's touch that. I'm getting 20.2 volts. There, see? So it's getting power there. Let's check to my first lead here. 4 volts ish. $8 volts ish. $12 volts ish. $16 volts. And then, of course, the last one, 20 volts. So they're pretty good. So I'm getting 20 volts here on the positive going to the, let me turn this fan off. So I'm getting 20 volts to the lead going to my motor. And then now let's see if I'm getting the negative as passing through. So we're going to put this on that. So if I touch it, we should get a buzzer. So if I touch the negative here, I do. So I get continuity there. So now let's check continuity. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. I'm going to put that there to the positive. Something's not passing through it. Do I have a bad wire? So if I hold that there, I think I might have a bad wire. Let me get some alligator clips. So what I did is I got the negative lead hooked up to an alligator clip, so I have a free hand. So it goes right there to the negative lead. So So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to get the positive one connected to positive lead. And go there. So it does connect that far. And then if I get this guy connected to the negative here, then get the negative of this guy here, so that is connecting all the way through. So if I'm getting positive to here and negative to here, the motor should work. Let's try it again. So here's a trick that'll cost you 20 cents. You put one battery in, one dime there, another dime there. What I do here, put on 200 volts because it's just over 20. And we're going to put this on the positive. Alright. And then the negative here on that guy. I'm getting 20 volts. That means this is fine. My motor might have just died. Oh, how sad. So, I guess may this rest in peace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart and figure out what's wrong with this later, or maybe on a second video. But right now that's complete and that's working. Pass all my tests. So now I have a working battery with a BMS that I can charge with the original charger, or I can charge it with the power supply. So that works. So, yep. Actually, just kidding. There's a solution to this. Very quick and easy. The way how the motor controller works uses a PWM, which means it uses a pulse width. So it'll turn it on and then turn it off, and then turn it on and turn it off, and turn it on and turn it off. And then the gap here, the width, and the width of the gap here, when it's off, determines the speed. So the more it's on, so like if it's like this, because there's more on and less off, that means it's a higher power. But if it's a like this, since it's less on and more off, that means it's running at a slower speed. That's like the kind of how it works. But because the PCB in the battery has short circuit protection, the motor is a brushed motor. So you would have the battery, or in this case the BMS, and then it goes to the motor, which has a brush, and then another brush, and then to some kind of a switch mechanism thing here to here. So here's a PWM circuit, but because it's turning on and off fully, it's actually creating a dead short for a short amount of time. But that's just right, there we go. That is creating a dead short just for a short amount of time. That it's triggering the short circuit protection. So the way to slow this down-ish is a really cool thingamajigger electrical component. It's called the capacitor. Ta-da! It's like this one. It needs to be a higher voltage than the source. So this is 25 volt. My battery's like what, 21.6 or something like that, or 20.6. So this is pretty close. I should be using like a 50 volt, but this is what I got on hand. I got a whole bag of these, so this is what I'm going to use for right now. And I'm going to show you my little test rig to show. So, made a mess here. So the way how these things work is that, and you can think of it as almost like a battery. The gold line right here means negative. So it has a little gold bar with that little green negative sign inside. It means it's negative. The other side is positive. And there's also another indicator that one leg is longer than the other. So the longer one is positive, the shorter one is negative. So what I did is I made a fire hazard here. I got 4 of them on a little plastic clamp. And so let's hope I hooked this thing up right, because if you hook these up backwards, you kind of have a bit of a violent reaction. So what I'm going to do here is I just connected those 4 leads together, all the positives. And then I'm going to get a green wire here. Show you my fire hazard in action here. And then I'm going to get one of, and then what the other thing I should do here is get the negative of the battery. Oh gosh, on the drill. That one's negative, I think. And I'll show what happens if we go that one there, and then on the bottom of the drill here-ish, there. If I pull the trigger, that's it. It triggered the short circuit protection. Doesn't work. Now I'm going to use the same drill. Not going to touch anything. I'm going to get another green. Doesn't matter what color you use, as long as you're consistent with your connections here. I'm going to get the negative here and go to the negative of the drill here. And then I'm going to get the yellow one here. You can use any color you want, or the same color, doesn't matter. Just don't hook things up backwards, please. And then this one, on the positive, right there, I'm going to hook up right here. And then I'm going to pull the trigger. Oh, I lied. I'm going to move these to the battery. But I think I might have triggered the over circuit protection. I think it's still triggered. A little dime method. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go, I saw a little spark there. Capacitors are charging up. And now watch this, I'll take off the capacitor bank. Or, how long will this run on capacitors only? So slide this out of the battery. So I just have just the capacitors hooked up. Nothing. And now I take this off the capacitor here. It's dead. I triggered the over circuit protection, over discharge thing, the short circuit protection. Take that off. Put this silly guy back on here. Hopefully there's no fire. There we go. She works. So the other question is, how many capacitors do I really need? Can I get away with just one? So let's take off these 2. Will it work with 2? Yep. How about with, I'm just gonna, only use one. Yep. When I put my finger on it, it doesn't slow down. So really 4 was complete overkill, but it just is a great demonstration. Now the other thing is I got to do is try to find a way to get one of these capacitors to fit inside that battery thingy majigger here. So I got my soldering iron. Works better when they're turned on. There. So now, get that guy on. And the thing is, the dangerous part is, these are rated at 25 volts. So what does that really mean? If you go over 25 volts, these things here usually explode. Or they leak, or they bulge, they don't work. So what you want to do is put this on the battery side. No. We're going to have to put this outside the battery. Well, I mean, outside the BMS. On the outside of the BMS, on the charger side of it. So, or the motor side of it, on the wires up here. So, what would happen is, so if I hook up a charge source that's more than 25 volts in this case, I would probably blow this capacitor. So I should be using like a 50 volt. Or you can do the extreme fire hazard way. This is what you don't do. So negative to positive to negative. No, just kidding. Nothing touches to positive. So now I've just increased the voltage tolerance by double. So now it's a handle at the 50 volts, but it's still 680 microfarad. If I pull the trigger here, it should still work. I lied. Okay. It's 0 microfarad because this is not hooked up. There. Now I can hook up a charge source up to 50 volts and the BMS will shut it off once it hits 20.6. And the capacitor won't explode unless I use a charge source that's over 50 volts. So that's the solution I'm going to have to implement in this to use a compatible BMS to make my motor compatible with the modified BMS by using this silly modification using a capacitor. And the reason why that works is because, going back to this little diagram here, a capacitor acts as a buffer. So instead of having that square wave, you have kind of like a, not like that, I'm bonehead here, is that it smooths it out. So you don't have these peaks. Without the capacitor, it would be much higher and sharper. So the square wave would look like this. The capacitor would make it run like this. And this peak to here is all the difference. And this peak right here is what's triggering the short circuit protection. And having that short little buffer here and smoothing it out really helps with the latency here. So from here, the peak, to the peak here, that short gap right here, I'm drawing all over myself, but that is gonna, it helps. Because the short circuit protection is like something like 2 milliseconds or something. So adding that latency will really help. So every little bit helps. That's why I started with 4 capacitors, because I didn't know how much power this draws. So I couldn't calculate it. So I just guesstimated and just went for worst case scenario. Maybe that's drawing 40 amps. So I used 4 of those. But still, I could have gotten away with 2. So, but I'm going to do 2 in series. I'll show you. So here's how you continue with the fire hazard idea here. To negative to positive to negative to positive. So you have one positive one side and one negative on the other. And they're just in series. I open this guy up. So I'm probably going to put it something like in here and solder the negative to the black and the positive to the red up there. And I'll show you when I'm done. So there's my mod completed. I put the capacitors oriented that way, doesn't matter. The positive is there. Yes. And then the negative is down there. There's the negative line goes to the negative black wire. And then I still use my Starbucks card mod just to get her done. So, and then I'm just going to make sure this guy here still fits. There we go. Gotta put it back together. So now with this, using a non-motor, non-drill compatible BMS, you can still use on a drill. I just need a hammer to put this back together and some more Gorilla tape. And then there we go. Get this guy off. Alright, now there. Cool. It's working. I just need a little bit more tape to cover that up and maybe a couple rubber bands to keep tension on it. But yeah, it works. Everything's happy. Maybe get a couple more years life out of it. Now I can use the original charger it came with, which is junk. But these batteries, I can charge them at 4 amps each. Since there's 2 in series, I can put on an 8 amp charge, which 8 amps at 20 volts is a lot. So that's what, 160 watts. So yeah, which will be fun. I should build a charger. I can show you guys how to build a charger for that too. That's interesting. I'll do that. I need a. There's another charger I'm working on for my bike. That's a 60 volt, 7.5 amp, and a 4.5 amp in parallel. So what was that, 12 amp charge? So at 60 volts, that's a fire hazard. That's gonna be fun. I'll show you guys how to do that too. But I just wanted to show this, how you may use a non-drill compatible BMS and make it drill compatible by using these capacitors, which I buy these on eBay, a bag of 100 for like $1 or $2. So, and you blow them up, I have a bag of 100, so I can fix this 50 times or 49 times. So yep, make something more gooder out of a trash product, and keep it around for a couple years, so I don't feel so bad I bought it. And now with the proper BMS with no wires dangling out, it doesn't look like something that could explode on you. So it looks less unproper, but still a fun product. So have fun.